Gunn's fans turn against him at the Peacemaker season 2 finale. Let's talk about it. These are my thoughts. Peacemaker was doomed and failed and was DOA the minute James Gunn touched it to try to make it a Diamond property. Because, for one thing, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are Diamond properties, right? So the question becomes, what makes them Diamond properties? Alright? They are iconic because they come with their own mythos, based on the rogues gallery, based on their own opposition, and based on their own surroundings, right? So they are Diamond properties that had multiple writers, and it had multiple writers and multiple tones. It had the same tone. They went through mistakes and they went through tones to be able to set the character apart from each other, right? To make them definitive. So they're Diamond properties because this the appeal and the interest to people. It's the interest of those characters that make them appealing and interesting to them, right? So the very fact that he actually believed that he could turn an obscure character like Peacemaker, and understand something, Peacemaker, the bastardization of the Peacemaker that he had, he thought that he could turn that into a Diamond property in 2 seasons, and an animated show, and with him, and put him in movies. The level of arrogance and narcissism for him to believe that he can do in 2 seasons what people have had to do for up to 50 to 100 years. Do you believe that Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman just became Diamond properties overnight, or they just were able to do it in 2 TV shows and stuff like that? No, it took time. It took different visions. It took different tones. It took different directions to actually make it definitive of what actually makes those characters iconic to begin with. So he has already failed just trying to do that to begin with. However, the point of this to make them a Diamond property is the fact that you have to be capable of turning that character into a Diamond character, which means you have to have the ability to know what it takes to do that. James Gunn's 2 seasons in, and he has failed to do that. And the best way that he can pretend that he's already had this momentum to make Peacemaker this icon is to basically just try to force feed it down everybody's throats and try to make us believe that he's done so much. Peacemaker's done nothing compared to the other characters. He's done nothing. He wants us to do most of the work, where we get more invested with the less that he does. So the viewership is not there, so he wants to use us to prop him up. Meanwhile, he's using Fortnite and Mortal Kombat to put him into to pretend like we just propped him up to be this icon status from him doing this whole bunch of things and him being on the same level as Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, as if he's done the exact same things. What's the show for that? Nothing. So he's asking for us to do the work. He's asking for his fans to do the work. So he has nothing to substantiate the claim to say that Peacemaker is an icon. There's nothing to speak on that. And he's had every opportunity to be able to do that. But the truth of the matter is, it comes down to capability. And he's not capable of doing that. And it also shows the fact is that this is the character that he says he loves. That he has a broader vision for him, and he wants him that he's in the bigger the stakes that the whole point of this is that he has something in store for him with bigger stakes, right? On a broad sense. Yet he had the opportunity to be able to show that, and he failed at every turn. When you look at his X page, everything he talks about is pretty much Peacemaker, nothing else. If you go to his channel and you look it through his channel, you will look through his X account, and not just his X account, but through DC, his DC account, it pretty much promotes Peacemaker. He has a podcast that's pretty much propping up Peacemaker. Okay? And now the show that has nothing to show for it, the show that means nothing, that has done nothing, that is propped up on nothing, is getting the most focus while he has no plan for Batman. While he weakened Superman. While he has no plan to actually do a real sequel to Superman, because the fact is that he wants a show that actually props up him and Lex in the same level. So he has nothing to show for it. So he wants to use us to set up and build momentum for something he cannot carry. which is why he used Superman as a grift. He used Superman as a grift to go and try to get us to go into the Peacemaker to say, oh, with this, it's going to tie into everything I'm going to do. It's tying everything in the bigger part of the DCU. It ties into the bigger portion of what's going to happen, about how I'm going to lay out the bigger stakes of how everything is connected, and it plays a big, integral, very essential part on why everything is set up the way that it is. My question to you is this. If this is essential and you're worried about making sure that the story is intact and making sure that the investment is intact that people put into Peacemaker, let me ask you this. Why did you do a Peacemaker show? Why didn't you just do a Planet Salvation show? Why didn't you just do a Planet Salvation movie? Why didn't you just do a Checkmate movie or Checkmate TV series? You didn't want to do that. You wanted Peacemaker because you wanted Peacemaker you want people to be invested in your bastardization of Peacemaker, just so you can sit up here, just so he can put these things into the story to make it sound like that he's actually building out a universe, to pretend that the investment is well perceived, and to pretend like he's actually doing something productive, to show that I'm looking for outside factors outside of the Peacemaker show to show that I'm invested on the larger part of the DCU. Excuse me. But that wasn't the truth. The reason why a lot of people only looked at Peacemaker was because of the outside factors. They wanted to know how everything tied into the universe that he's supposedly supposed to build. And just like his slate, it was crumbling because he had no plan. He has no plan, and for the larger part, and I'm going to say this, there is no story. The whole point of why he did what he did with that character is because there's no story. There is no story throughout the whole damn show. And he knows it. He carried it on a limp and a prayer, because most of the investment, most of the stuff that was propped up is him and pretending that Peacemaker is an icon that has done so much but can't really account what he did. And he has done, and for this particular character, he has made every backdoor, sidestep, and every shortcut for Peacemaker. Because it was in another article, I think it was like a month or two ago, that said that when Peacemaker ends its run, that it's eventually going to go into a Waller show, or it's going to go into the Authority show, which was basically supposed to be a movie. But since both projects don't have a clear status on what's happening with either one of those, now there's no telling what's going to happen with the character. And on top of that, you just let the character out there on, basically abandoned on, Planet Salvation, which is, from what I've heard from a rumor, that was actually Peter Safran's idea. That the initial ending from James Gunn was to actually have James Gunn and his cohorts, or his, James Gunn and his friends go into the Checkmate building, and they changed that to Rick Flag Sr. just dropping him off out of revenge on Planet Salvation and leaving him abandoned there. So fans are very, very pissed off, as they should be. And I would be too if I invested this time into this, even if I didn't care about the character. I want to know how this is going to play out in the larger scheme of things. But he didn't do that. He basically pulled a bait and switch, and we tried to tell people this. But even the ones who were skeptical about it, that wanted to know what was going on, because they were told that ever since Superman was released to digital, they said that the reason why Superman was released to digital, yep, this is what he said, was because Peacemaker was going to be released within that next month. So they want people to see Peacemaker. Yeah, because that sounds right. And then by the time people saw it, we just saw the shock value. Everybody just saw the shock value from season 1. Everybody saw the shock value from episode 1. And after that, people just wanted to know, why am I looking at this? What does this have to do with the DCU? Where does this lead? Is this going to pay off? And to everybody else's surprise, not mine, it was a giant letdown. The truth is, the show was meant to be a disappointment from the word go. It was DOA before it was even conceived. He does not have the capability to make him a diamond project. He just wanted this vanity project to be able to take precedence over everything. He sidelined the Penguin for this show. The Peacemaker has nothing to show for it. Not in viewership, not in awards, not in recognition, not in fandom. None of it. The Penguin didn't even get any mentions from his own studio, and they got 9 Emmys and got 3.2 and got through over 3 million views over each episode. You know, the shows that usually show that not only when they gain a return, they actually get another season. Because everybody knows if James Gunn was not the DC studio chief, it never would have gotten a season 2. That's just the truth. Everybody knows that. And yet, you've had 2 seasons and you did not make this character essential in any capacity. Which goes to show which speaks volumes on the level of below mediocre writing and direction. Okay? I also say that to say this. One of the things that really enraged me is the fact is not only does it does not have a story, but the fact that the reason why it didn't have a story is because it was trying to compensate for the reason why it didn't have a story with lazy storylines, with the white supremacist angle that they went with. And one of the things that really pissed me off was the very fact that he was using this as an excuse to pretend that he was about larger issues and to pretend that it was this big plot line of, oh, well, everything's perfect for a Peacemaker. And then you ask, and then when you figure out why, I'm like, this is the route you have to go? Like, really? This is where you really wanted to go with this? And I'm like, okay, so you're in the 2nd season and you're already this lazy into the writing. This is my response to this. With all due respect, and I'm going to say this as a person of color, as a black man, I find this very pathetic. The very fact that you use this as a plot line to be able to do this. Because somebody also mentioned, oh, are we going to get to be able to see Overman into this? Because I don't know if anybody's familiar with the plot line, but Overman is the Superman's version of when the short mustache man from Germany had won World War II, and it would be the Overman alternate reality of Superman within that world. And people thought that they actually believed that that James Gunn was actually going to lead it to that. No, because James Gunn was not capable of that type of writing, and nowhere near did they have that type of budget to do that. So he would never even go in that direction. He just used it as a lazy plot point to be able to compensate that there was no story for Peacemaker. And one of the things that I wanted to be able to reiterate on, I wanted to clarify on something. I have a problem when he decides to use this as a plot line, when he says that it was perfect. The only way that the love of his life, his love interest is going to love him if it's during the era of white supremacy. Oh, he got the job that he wanted. Everybody gets along. Everybody, it's perfect in the eyes of white supremacists. So you're not showing that there's something wrong. You're showing that everything is okay under this era, and it's the black people and the other people of color that's messing it up. So you didn't do anything in that regard to be able to clarify that. You just said it's perfect. And in this perfect scenario, black people are pretty much getting in the way of why you can't love the person that you wanted to love. The reason why you can't get the job that you want. The reason why things aren't going well in your life. The reason why you have these mental issues and stuff like that. That you can't be comfortable who what you are. So you just ignited the fires and actually clarified and confirmed white supremacy's talking points. You really didn't debunk them. You just used it as a premise. Also, on top of that, I would say this: he didn't set up a universe. What he did was he set up references. He didn't set up a world where this is going to be consequential. Like this is going to be a real impact into the next DCU property or future properties, so to speak. They're not going to lead into something big and consequential. They'll be used as reference points, as to say, oh, they'll mention Planet Salvation and Man of Tomorrow. They'll mention Checkmate in Man of Tomorrow, but it's not going to go into depth as to, oh, well, this is what happened in Peacemaker and this is why Peacemaker is relevant. No, he's using it as a reference point. They'll be mentioned at some point, but they're not going to be consequential to the storyline. They're not going to be consequential to the actions. They're not going to be consequential to the characters. It's just something that he used as an excuse to lure people to do a bait and switch to get people to watch his show, which still has lower viewership. And understand something: Peacemaker has the Peacemaker season 2 finale, series finale, has the lowest viewership out of all the episodes, and fans are pissed, and there's huge backlash for James Gunn. So if you think that we're coming at him, the fans of the show are really coming at him for this, because he overhyped this show to be something that it was never capable of being in to begin with. It never had that capability. James Gunn does not have that capability to do that. And we tried to tell you. So, again, I just want to let people to know that this was nothing more than a bait and switch and a grift. Because in my other video, which was longer, when Peacemaker, when Superman was released to digital, I told people that this was a grift, pure and simple. And his whole point of the DCU is pretty much to launder Superman and the core characters to make Peacemaker more of a to make him a core character, to make him the diamond, to make him the diamond out of all the diamond properties of the DCU, and to make him more of a priority in the sideline all the stories and the sideline all the characters, the sideline all the storylines. In order to make everything preferential to Peacemaker, and also showed that he was also going to set up him as him having a solo movie. But here's the thing with that: now that the show is gone, there is no way that a Peacemaker movie is in the future now, because people are pissed off at the show, and you can no longer pretend and hide that this show has that this character has an icon status that has produced no result of it being an icon, and now that movie may be taken off the table because of you and the very fact that you're incapable of making him an icon. So that movie that he was in the works of trying to do, I don't think that's a possibility anymore. Because now his job might be in jeopardy based on what he's been doing. Why? Because Zaslav and the rest of the people at Warner Brothers and DC Studios have waited till the last minute to see that he is not producing results. He's making vanity projects and pretending to be surprised at the results as to why people are not investing into him and his shows and his movies. That's supposed to be under the DC Studios banner, while he's bastardizing the characters and treating with no respect. We called this out on day one. We told you this was going to happen. We told you this is what his agenda was. We told you this is what he was going to do. Period. But I want to know what you think. Leave a comment below. Be respectful in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe. And remember to hit the notification bell so you're aware when I upload new videos. Until the next video, peace.